Okay, I think I'm live. I apologize. I've had some difficulties this morning. A little bit on summer time. And I had to reboot, what do you call it? Update my phone? I don't know. Anyway, so some technical difficulties and all that kind of stuff. So I apologize that I'm about 20 minutes late. Hey! All right, Dominic. And I'm assuming Sebastian's there with you. Good to see y'all. Okay, so we are finishing our first chapter book of the summer. This is Jack and Annie in New York City. And I happened to see that our friend Sammy is in New York City right now. I saw a post. They were at it's not the World Trade Center. I can't remember what it's called. The Freedom Tower, I think is what it's called. So he's actually in, hey Dom, how are you, man? He's actually in New York City right now. Isn't that cool? And that's what we're actually reading about. So it's really neat. Okay, so Dominic, give me like a thumbs up or a heart or something to show me. Have you listened to all 8 chapters so far? I think I'll see it if you push like one of the little things at the bottom. One of the little icons. One of the little emojicons. What do you call those? Emojis. You may not know where it is. And if you're not on a phone, that may not be there. I don't know. But, oh, no. Okay, well, so just so you know, it is on my YouTube channel. And it's also, I think if you go look, I think the videos are still there. Oh, there's your thumbs up. Very nice job. Okay, well, let's get started. So chapter 9 is called It's Them. And also, I'm trying to remember the last thing that happened. Oh, he had just turned these two mean people, Grinda and Balfour, I think was his name. He just turned them into ducks. Remember there was what was this guy's name? Ballard. Okay, so here we go. Glad you're here, Dominic. All right, so it says, one duck was gray with black and white markings. The other had a glossy green head and a rust-colored chest. Both had orange webbed feet and long yellow bills. Quack, quack, they said. Annie looked over her shoulder at Jack. I memorized the duck rhyme a while ago, she said with a grin. I knew it would come in handy someday. Jack laughed. Good work, he said. The two ducks waddled around on their bright orange feet, quacking. Answering cries came from overhead. A flock of ducks was flying through the clear November sky. Go on, Ballard and Grinda, Annie shouted to the two mallards. Go with them now. The mallards quacked at Annie. Go on, Jack chimed in. Fly south for the winter. You'll have fun, we promise. The two mallards quacked and flapped their wings. First one and then the other rose off the ground. They flew high into the sky. Jack held his breath as he watched the mallards soar away, flying south over New York City. Annie put her arms around the unicorn's neck. Then she rested her head on his silky white mane. You're safe now, she said, but you have to leave us. I have to show you the way to Camelot. The problem is, I don't know how to do that. Auga, auga. Jack looked over at an avenue that bordered the park. A big yellow taxi was parked by the curb. The driver was honking his horn. He waved through the window. What's that guy want? Said Annie, sitting up. I don't know, said Jack. The driver jumped out of the car. He wore a cap and a plaid scarf. Hey, it's the same driver who deserted us outside the cloisters, said Annie. The passenger door of the taxi opened and a girl stepped out. She was wearing a purple shawl. And that's the girl who told us to get off at the wrong subway stop, said Jack. The taxi driver and the girl in the shawl both waved at Jack and Annie. Then the driver lifted his cap and pulled down his scarf. He had red curly hair and a wonderful familiar grin. The girl pulled the shawl off her head. Beautiful long black curls fell down to her waist. "It's them," said Jack. "Teddy, Kathleen," Annie shouted. Jack and Annie slid off the unicorn's back onto the snowy ground. The young enchanters ran across the snow to them. Annie threw her arms around Teddy. Kathleen threw her arms around Jack. The four of them laughed and talked at the same time. "That was you? That was you? That was us!" "I'm sorry I told you to get off at the wrong stop," said Kathleen. "But Teddy was waiting for you there." Okay, so here's a picture. Teddy and Kathleen. And if you remember, they're always the ones that are like kind of there hidden but helping them. So, "And I'm sorry I left you stranded in the storm," said Teddy, "but I knew you'd find your way to the cloisters. We thought you guys were these two kids following us, Balor and Grinda," said Annie. "Yes, we just saw you turn them into ducks," said Kathleen. "Brilliant." "Who were they?" asked Jack. "Apprentices of the Dark Wizard," said Kathleen. "We didn't know they were following you. Even Merlin didn't know." "They were pretty creepy," said Jack. "Yeah, but they actually helped us without meaning to," said Annie. "They knew the unicorn's name." "We thought it was Divine Flower of Rome," said Jack. "I told Merlin that clue might be a bit difficult," said Teddy. "Divine flower is dianthus in Latin, the language of old Rome." Oh, I see. So divine flower of Rome is called the dianthus, and they're saying in Latin the word dianthus is the language of the old Rome. "So do Grinda and Balor know Latin?" asked Annie. "Hardly," said Teddy. "The unicorn's name is famous throughout the other world. He is known for his great magic and for his goodness," added Kathleen. "We know about his goodness," said Annie. "When he ran through the streets with his horn in the air, the blizzard ended, and everyone we passed cheered up and seemed to get more hopeful. The Dark Wizard was trying to capture Dianthus so he could keep the unicorn's good magic from the rest of the world," said Kathleen. "Merlin will be very pleased that you have foiled the wizard's plan. In truth, I believe he would like to thank you himself," said Teddy. He turned toward the yellow taxi parked by the curb. The back door of the car opened, and two grown-ups stepped out, a tall, elegant woman wearing a wine-colored cloak and a man in a dark blue robe. The man had a long white beard. The woman had long white hair. "Morgan, Merlin," whispered Jack. As the wizard and magical librarian of Camelot walked across the snow, Dianthus stepped forward to greet them. He bowed his head. Merlin tenderly stroked the unicorn's white neck. Morgan Le Fay turned to Jack and Annie. "Hello," she said, smiling. "It is good to see you both." Her lovely voice washed over Jack like music. "You too," said Annie, hugging the enchantress. "What are you and Merlin doing here?" Jack asked. "I have always wanted to visit New York City," said Merlin. "Teddy has just given us quite a ride in that taxi. Merlin had to tell him to slow down several times." Morgan laughed and turned toward Merlin. "Quite a ride indeed," said Merlin. "Greetings to you both, Jack and Annie." "Greetings," they said. "Thank you for saving my beloved Dianthus," said Merlin. "Long ago he was stolen from Camelot by evildoers. He was rescued by magic weavers in the Netherlands. To keep him safe, they used their art to hide him in their tapestries. I knew I could entrust you two to set him free on the day the spell was to end, but your mission turned out to be more dangerous than I intended. I did not know the Dark Wizard had sent his apprentices to follow you and capture the unicorn." "Poor Grinda and Balor," said Annie. "Now they're ducks." "Oh, do not worry," said Teddy. "The spell will wear off in a few days, and they'll find their way home." "Yes," said Kathleen, "and I'm sure the Dark Wizard will have some other wicked plans for them. Aye, said Merlin, but they will no longer have the use of their black rope. He picked the rope up from the ground and handed it to Teddy. Take this back to Camelot and see that it is destroyed. Gladly, said Teddy. It must be terrible to work for the dark wizard, said Annie. She looked at Merlin. I'm glad we work for you instead. Merlin smiled. And so am I, he said. On your last 4 missions, you and Jack have proved you know how to use magic wisely. And for that, I now entrust you with one of Camelot's greatest treasures. Merlin pulled a spiraled wand from his robe. I give you the wand of Dianthus, he said. As you can see, the wand is made in the shape of the unicorn's horn. It has a bit of magic in it. Merlin held the silver wand out to Jack and Annie. All right, so here's the picture. Merlin and Morgan Le Fay. Girls, I know that y'all would probably, and guys, y'all would probably freak out too if y'all got a unicorn horn. How cool is that? Jack took the wand from Merlin. It burned in his hand with cold or warmth. He couldn't tell which. With the help of the wand, you can make your own magic, said Merlin, but you can only use it after you've tried your hardest, said Morgan. And remember that it can only be used for another's good. We'll remember, breathed Annie. Thank you, said Jack. He unbuckled his briefcase and carefully placed the silver wand inside. We must leave you now, said Merlin. He turned to Teddy and Kathleen. You may ride Dianthus home to Camelot. I will be along shortly. But first, I would like to drive that taxi around New York City myself. Morgan, will you join me? Indeed, said Morgan, but drive a bit more slowly than Teddy, please. I promise nothing, said Merlin. He looked at Jack and Annie. Good evening to you, my friends. I will call for you again soon. Bye, said Annie and Jack. Merlin took Morgan's arm, and the two walked back to the taxi and climbed into the front seat. The big yellow car sputtered and then took off wildly. As it careened up the avenue, Merlin blew its horn. Auga! Auga! There they go. Merlin and Morgan Le Fay driving a taxi in New York City. This was back in the Great Depression time, though. Okay, so chapter 10. This is our last chapter. The Wand of Dianthus. Jack, Annie, Teddy, and Kathleen laughed. My, said Kathleen, I believe I would much rather ride Dianthus than go with Merlin. The white unicorn knelt in the snow. Kathleen and Teddy climbed onto his back. Dianthus stood up. Teddy smiled down at Jack and Annie. You know 'tis a very great honor to be given the wand of Dianthus, he said. I know, said Jack shyly. Thanks for getting us to the right place at the right time today. Hey, were you guys in Venice looking out for us there too, said Annie. And Baghdad? And Paris? The two young enchanters looked at one another. Then they nodded their heads. We knew it, said Annie. Thanks for helping us, and thanks for the book of magic rhymes, said Jack. You are most welcome, said Teddy. And now we must go. We hope to see you again soon. Goodbye, Dianthus, said Annie. She stroked the unicorn's neck one last time. Dianthus lowered his head and stared at her with his soft blue eyes. They sparkled in the last bit of daylight. Annie stood on her toes and whispered in the unicorn's ear. Then she stepped back. Dianthus snorted. He raised his head. Then he leapt forward. In a flash of silver, the unicorn and his two riders were gone. Standing in the cold dusk, Annie stared silently into the distance. What did you say to him? Asked Jack. I told him he had to go with Teddy and Kathleen, Annie said. She blinked back tears. I told him they would show him the way home now. Oh, said Jack. He put his hand on Annie's back. Don't worry, we'll see Dianthus again someday. I just feel it. Annie smiled. You're starting to sound like me, she said. Uh-oh, said Jack. He shivered. Night was falling fast. Ready? Sure, let's go, said Annie. She followed Jack to the treehouse and up the rope ladder. They climbed inside and looked out the window. The lights of New York City were starting to come on. A full moon was rising over the snow-covered park. "Hello, blue moon," said Jack. So it was a full moon twice. And remember, Dominic, that I think this year we had a blue moon, once in a blue moon. So it's when there's a full moon twice in 1 month. And so this all had to happen when there was a blue moon. "Hello, blue moon," said Jack. "Goodbye, blue moon," said Annie. Jack picked up the scroll from Merlin. He pointed to the words Frog Creek in Merlin's note. "I wish we could go home," he said. All right, say it with me, Dominic. The wind started to blow. The tree house started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Good job. I see that thumbs up. Okay. A cold wind blew through the Frog Creek woods. A few fat snowflakes drifted into the treehouse. Jack and Annie were dressed in their own clothes again. Jack's briefcase had turned back into a backpack. Jack quickly opened the pack and looked inside. "Good," he said. "The wand of Dianthus is still there." "Should we take it home with us?" asked Annie. "I think so," said Jack. "We can keep it safe until our next mission." He pulled Teddy and Kathleen's book of rhymes out of his pack. "I guess we can keep our book of rhymes as a souvenir," Jack said. "We won't be using it anymore since we've used up all the rhymes." He stuffed the book back into his backpack. "We haven't used all of them," said Annie. "We still have one left, remember? Find a treasure you must never lose." "Oh, I already used that one," said Jack. "Come on, let's go." He grabbed his pack and started down the rope ladder. "What do you mean you already used that one?" Annie said as she followed him down. "When did you use that rhyme?" Jack stepped onto the ground. "How do you think I found you when you got lost in Central Park?" he said. "Wait, you thought I was a treasure?" said Annie. Jack shrugged. "I guess," he said. "At least today I did." Remember, they are brother and sister. Annie smiled. "Cool," she said. "Thanks for finding me when you got lost." "Not me, you," said Jack. "You're the one who got lost." "No, you," said Annie. "You," said Jack. You, said Annie. Jack laughed. Whatever he said, let's go have some of Dad's hot chocolate. The snow began to fall harder as the cold wind rattled the bare trees of the Frog Creek woods. Jack and Annie hurried home. There's the last picture, some hot chocolate. I love reading about snow when it's warm, even though it's not been very warm. It's starting to get warmer. All right, we just finished our very first chapter book of the summer, and we've only been out of school for 2 weeks, so that's pretty good to have a whole chapter book read in just 2 weeks. Okay, so Dominic, I know you're the only one on here. I have some other friends. Hey, Garrett Gunn and Deucix, that sweet baby. Oh, and my son. Good to see y'all. Okay, so this is the book that we're going to start on Monday. It's book number 9. It's the Merlin Missions, and it's Dragon of the Red Dawn. And remember this, Dominic? Y'all were all like, "Ooh, yeah! I love the dragons." So exciting. Okay, so Monday I will read again probably at 4 o'clock on Monday afternoon. So if you are busy at 4, no big deal. You can watch this video later. I also will upload it on my YouTube channel. You can just look up Tiffany Betterton on YouTube. So, but all the chapters are there if you want to catch up. So, oh, you're welcome, Dominic. I'm so glad you were on here. All right. Well, y'all have an awesome day. Thanks for reading with me today. Keep reading so your brains don't turn to mushy gushy this summer. Love y'all. Bye.